Hey folks, I'm Chris and I'm your Commander Mechanic. This week we've got another patron special tune-up from viewer Brian P. Remember that if you want to work with me to tune up one of your decks, to check out my Patreon. You get extra entries into draws and giveaways, get to work with me directly on your decks, and we'll have some new perks coming up soon. Brian writes in saying, a few years ago Pleasant Kenobi did a video with Titus Lunter about a Riku of Two Reflections group hug deck that aimed to ramp players into threats, then copy those threats. I wanted to come to the copy expert with ideas on how to use new tools that have been released since then to modernize the concept. I've been struggling with it, and while price isn't a concern, I want to be able to be flexible enough to play at almost any table. First, Brian, thank you for choosing to support the channel. I could not do this without patrons like you. Second, you've definitely come to the right place. I've done a few videos on Group Hug, which I'll link up top, and there's no better expert on the subject of copying spells or creatures, so let's see what we're getting ourselves into. Brian and I worked closely on this list and went back and forth on a few subjects, but let's take a look at classic Temur-colored commander Riku of Two Reflections. For 5 mana, this 2/2 human wizard reads, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may pay a red and a blue. If you do copy that spell, you may choose new targets for it. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay a green and a blue. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature. So it's a copy-palooza. Riku is the originator of this concept, but it's been taken so far in the past few years. I've done copy-based lists headed by Orvar the Allform and Calamax the Stormsire, both linked up top. And my favorite deck of all time has to be my Too Many Gyrudas deck, all about copying Gyruda Doom of Depths as many times as possible. But this list is a bit different. Brian's original list contains a lot of group hug elements like Kami of the Crescent Moon, Heartwood Storyteller, and Well of Ideas, all aimed at giving everyone resources so you can make more copies of their threats. But there are 2 flaws to this concept. First is about curve. If you're spending 5 mana to cast a Zertaw Ancient, you're not the first person to benefit from it. You're giving your opponents the opportunity to just go out of control before you get an opportunity to untap. If you're casting group hug effects while other people are casting threats, then you need to be strategic about where on the curve they lie. Effects like Temple Bell or Rites of Flourishing are in the right spot. If your hug effects are coming down pre-turn 3, you can feel safe knowing you're still a turn or 2 out from the real threats hitting the table. And if you can control who gets those benefits and when, like when playing a Howling Golem or a Collective Voyage, then you can be safe in knowing you're going to be ahead of opponents. The second thing to be concerned about with this strategy is threats. If you're in a pod that's playing a high-value floor deck, where everything they're going to be playing is a bomb like a Vorinclex, then this strategy of copying their stuff works well. But if you're up against a high-value ceiling deck, where synergy takes a lot of lower-value pieces and ratchets them up, like say in most tribal strategies where a Lord of Atlantis makes even a 1/1 Merfolk crazy good, then copying a single piece of their strategy isn't getting you very far. In talking, we discussed including some of our own threats in the list so that we can control some of the pieces we may want to copy. If no one else is playing any individually powerful piece, then we need to take that into our own hands. I've ensured we're including Terror of the Peaks, Agent of Treachery, and even Nyxbloom Ancient, so that we can benefit off of our own efforts as much, or more through cloning, than our opponents are. We also work to fit in some payoff spells too, like Genesis Ultimatum. With our commander able to copy spells, being able to get 2 copies of an ultimatum is just absolutely game-breaking. Getting more out of our copy effects is important as well, so we've included ways to double creature tokens, like with an Adrix and Nev, or a Parallel Lives or Second Harvest, ensuring we can turn a single copy into an army. And ways to copy spells as well, especially our cloning spells with Double Vision, Thousand Year Storm, and Twinning Staff, a must-have in any deck where you're copying any spell. From a gameplay standpoint, we work to update the deck from one that ramps everyone's resources out of control and hope that someone plays a threat, to a deck that uses the early game to rocket everyone ahead a few turns, then ends up playing our own threats and copies of our opponents. While I'm not a fan of true group hug style decks that lack real ways to close out a game, I am a fan of copying things. Just always make sure that if your opponents don't have anything worth being copied, you do. This isn't the kind of deck where we're going to be copying legendary creatures either, so we've cut a few from the original list. Rushme, Eternity's Crafter, Rionia, Fire Dancer, and Kozilek, Butcher of Truth all got cut in favor of threats we can control better. Never be without a way to close out the game. A 3-hour slugfest is great, but if everyone forgot to actually put something in their decks to help them win, well, prepare for a long day. This deck's weakness is, surprisingly enough, interaction. We don't have many ways to deal with opponents' threats once they land, save for making more copies of that threat. It's a if you can't beat them, join them strategy. While we do have Beast Within, Chaos Warp, and Plasm Capture, that's really where it ends. And that's fine. We want threats sticking around so that we can make 2 to 3 to 4 copies of them. And not just creatures either. Clones like Clever Impersonator and Phyrexian Metamorph can be non-creatures. If someone plays an Aetherflux Reservoir, why not make one of our own? Anything you can do, I can do better is the name of the game here. Be everyone's friend in the early game, then be everyone's nightmare late game when you're making 3 to 4 copies of a Terror of the Peaks each turn. For the upgrade, I'd recommend serious attention to the mana base and to some of the interaction. Getting some fetch lands in here would be ideal, as in a 3-color deck, being able to grab a Triome or a Shock land means you're never short on your colors, especially when your commander has such an intense need for specific colors. On that note, we did go back and forth about adding a Chromatic Lantern to the list too, but felt that the group hug ramp elements like Collective Voyage, as well as our own ramp package of 3 Visits, Farseek, and Nature's Lore, means we didn't need to make accommodations to ensure our colors were achieved. Upgrading the interaction is important, not necessarily more, but some different options. Plasm Capture could easily be a mana drain in this list, swapping a 4-mana counterspell for a 2-mana counterspell. Adding in killer ramping rituals like Jeska's Will is an option too, especially the prospect of getting 2 copies with a Riku in play. But making nothing but red mana really hinders our follow-up to making that mana. Dockside Extortionist would make the cut, but really, in what deck wouldn't Dockside Extortionist make the cut? Take a look at the list in the video description, where I've got Pleasant Kenobi's original inspiration, Brian's first take, then our final tuned up list. This is a list for someone who doesn't want to be the threat until you're the threat. Be everyone's friend until you explode ahead and take the game. Let me know what you think about this deck in the comments below, and what you feel are must-haves in any Riku deck. Thanks again to Brian for supporting the channel, and as always folks, good luck and have fun. A huge thank you to all of our patrons that help support the channel and help make all of this possible. A special shout out to our treasure keepers, Casey Simonetta, Corey Whitaker, Dan Mui, and Samuel Hastings, and our metalwork colossi. Judson Bates, Matt Oakes, Matthew Chandler, Sean Carrier, Wyatt M, Garrity, Brian P, and Zach Brew. Thank you everyone, we couldn't do this without you.